other thing you will Google it later on and you will find it easy to understand it.
Yeah,
Yes, these two concepts are easy.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So we are looking at the isolation levels, right?
Yes.
So before that, we are seeing right now how the transaction works, right? In practical
Yeah.
format, we have
Yeah.
gone through the theoretical part that every statement will be executed or none will be executed, right? But we
Mm-hmm.
want to say it in a practical manner.
Yes.
So okay, so what we are going to do, we already have started our transaction, right?
Right.
So this
Yes.
is
Yes.
the first thing, and what I'll do, I'm going to select everything from public orders, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't connected till yet. So see, okay, I have to connect again, right?
That's right.
Okay, now I can do this, right? So this is the data
Mm.
that we have. So
Yeah.
I want to update. I want to update 101 where
It.
ID. Okay, price is 101. We have I already updated, right? So it's 101 over here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's inside the transaction. Let's make it 102.
Oh, not true.
Right
Okay.
now you can, and now if I update it again, let's first thing, if I try to get it right,
Yeah.
select asterisk every column from
Uh,
public orders
Public orders.
where id equals to 102. Now inside the same transaction, if I try to, okay, id1 is equals to
ID
102.
equal to 8.
If I try
Yeah.
to get, okay, wait, oh, okay, shit, now I need to roll back. See, if anything, any exception occurs, right, this thing will happen, and then I need to roll back. There is, I cannot commit that particular transaction if any
Mm-hmm.
wrong statement I start, right? So see,
Yeah.
if I'll see again over here, then it's still 1 1, right?
101.
Because
Yeah.
nothing has been updated, because the transaction
Updated.
we have rolled back, right?
Yeah.
So cool. So what we are going to do now is we will, and over here as well, let's just say, okay, let's check all the columns, right? So again I'll do begin, right? Transaction is
Yeah.
started. Then I'll say again, I'll repeat.
Update.
Okay, update. I'll write it again. Public
Public
orders
data. Set price is
set
equal to
price equals
102.
to 1802
To
101
where
is already
ID
there,
is
right?
equal to 8.
Right, I've already done
Eight.
it. Now let's see,
Mm.
nothing, right? 1 1
Not
is still 1 1.
102.
So
Yeah.
cool. So if I try to get from public orders where id equals to 8, right? Same query
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to run over here, right? So over
Yeah.
here you will see it 102, right?
102.
Because inside the transaction, what's happening, it's reading data of the table from the where we have updated the data.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's reading the updated data, right? So inside
Yes.
the
Yes.
transaction, if I need to do anything, right, if I need to use this particular price and then update it somewhere in the invoice table, right, or the payments table,
Mm-hmm.
so I can get it, right? I can get the latest value.
Yeah.
Cool. But the same thing, the same command which for which I'm getting right now 102, if I'll try over here, then it's 1 1, right? Because it's not been
Yeah. Yeah.
updated right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in the buffer memory, right now.
Buffer zone. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not in the database. If I write the commit, then it will happen, right? But last time
Yes.
also we have seen only a single query to be executed, right? Single DML
Mm-hmm.
command we have seen just in
Yes.
last session itself. So
Yes.
let's
Yes.
update another ID as well. Let's say that ID equals to 7 as well. Let's take 7. 7 is 700, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we get data from 7, so it's 700, right? So
Mm-hmm.
let's update data from here and update over here. We will do let's price, let's say 400. Okay,
Oh,
I'm getting a call.
okay.
Okay, just give me 1 minute, I'll be back. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
so where are we?
We are in
Uh,
the
yeah,
updating the another ID.
yes. So we have already updated one row, right? Now we
Yeah.
are about to update another row as well with the ID 7,
Yes.
right? 8 we have already updated. Now 7 we have already updated, right? So now
Yes.
if I get 7, then it's 400, right? And
Yes. Yes.
if I try to check 7 over here, then it's still 700, right?
Yeah.
So now I have two options, right? One
Yes.
option is that I'll do commit now, right?
Mm.
If I'll do the commit, the data will be saved. If I'll do the
Still. Yeah.
rollback, the data will be erased, right, from the
Yeah.
buffer, right? It will never be
Buffer. Buffer.
persisted. So last time we have
Yeah.
already done the commit, right? So rollback. So let's
Yes.
do the
Yes.
commit. So I
Yeah.
did the commit. Now if I'll try to check, then it's 7 is 400, right?
Yeah.
And again let me see, check again, 7 is 400 and 8 will change from 101 to 102,
On the.
right?
Yeah.
So until I do the change, I mean I do the commit, what will happen?
Mm-hmm.
The data will not be visible to other
The,
transactions, right?
yes.
Okay, so this would be the first thing. And let's do the rollback as well. Let's let begin, right? Begin, the transaction will start, and let's update, let's make 7 to 700 again,
Yeah.
right? So if I'll do the rollback, right, rollback, then nothing will be done, right? If I'll check again 7, it will be 400 only, right?
400 on there.
Because with the rollback we end the transaction, right? So
Yeah.
multiple lines we can group together between the begin and rollback, or begin or commit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a transaction, and this is how in practical we combine multiple DML or DQL commands, right? Not DQL.
Mhm.
See, with DQL, it's we are only getting the data, right, from the database. So DQL command
Yeah.
is, we don't get any issue if we try to use the transaction, right? Because we are just reading the
Yeah.
data. Reading the data
Yeah.
does not make any impact, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's completely cool. DQL we will use as we like. There is no issue. Now let's see how many isolation levels are there, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I mentioned that there are 4 isolation levels, right? Read committed, read uncommitted. First of all is read uncommitted, right? Other one is
Yeah.
read committed, another one is read repeatable, and the last one is
Mm.
serializable, right? So
Okay.
this is how the sequence goes. So wait. Okay, cool. So sequence is read uncommitted, right?
Uncommitted.
Uncommitted, committed, right? And what will happen in read uncommitted? That the data, right now, the example that we have seen, we was not reading uncommitted data, right? We were reading committed data. I will let
Committed.
you know the difference. The third will be read repeatable,
Re-
read,
Repeated.
repeatable read, and the last one will be isolation. So, oh my bad,
Isolation.
serializable,
Serialized.
these are isolation levels, right? What are these?
Yes.
These are isolation levels.
Isolation levels.
Isolation levels, right? L, levels. I of the acid, right? This is I of the acid. Cool.
Yeah.
Now, what is read uncommitted? This is the
Okay.
lowest level of isolation, first thing, right? In
Mm-hmm.
this, again, one thing, these things, why we have these things from 1 to 4, these things are dedicated to make sure how one transaction will impact the another transaction, right?
Okay.
Whenever we talk about isolation levels, then it involves two transactions. Cool.
Okay.
All right. The first thing, this would be
Yeah.
the first thing. And like in the inheritance, it will require at least two classes, right? So same
Yeah.
with the isolation levels. So read uncommitted says, for example, if there is a bank account and I want to save some user, right? Save some. I have updated the bank balance of one user, and one user has 100 rupees, right? Let's say A
Okay.
user has 100 rupees,
Mm.
and B user has okay. Let's change the amount. It says that it has 900 and it has 1000. Cool. So let's
Okay.
say that I have I want to transfer from A to B, right? So what will I do?
Yeah.
So I will do start the transaction, right? Now we know
Begin.
begin
Yeah.
the transaction start, right? So what I
Yes.
will do, I will do amount minus 100, right?
Yeah. Amount
Amount
minus
minus
100.
100, right?
Yeah.
So in read uncommitted, I haven't I haven't done this thing, right? I haven't
Mm.
committed this thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, this is transaction T1, right? T1. Let's
Even.
suppose there is transaction T2. How we are checking, mimicking this thing, transaction T1, T2, by opening two terminals, right? By opening connection
Yes.
to the database twice. This is how we
Yeah.
are mimicking these two transactions. So in
Yeah.
second transactions, what we will try to do, we will try to check, we will try to update the money in A account,
Mm.
right? We will
Yeah.
update the money, and we will first try to get the money, that select amount from public, and subqueries we have done, right?
Yeah.
And let's say it's users, so we'll try to use it as a query and then add 100 rupees, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So what will happen if if there was 100 rupees, right? So
Mm.
I subtracted from A's account, right? I
Yeah.
updated from A's account 100 rupees. Now
Yes.
if read uncommitted is allowed, read uncommitted means that other transaction can also read from the buffer. Cool.
Mm.
If
Okay.
T2 also read from the buffer, and
Mm.
at this particular time, right? Let's say
Yeah.
that this is time 1, right? This is time 1.
Mm.
So at time 1 it reads from the database how much amount it will see. It will see 900, right?
900. Yes.
Because we have executed this line, right? Then
Yeah.
what will happen, it will do this 100 and it will commit it out, right? So now
Yes.
in the persistent storage, a amount is 1000 again, right?
Yeah.
But let's suppose this thing, and while updating the next statement by transferring this amount, there is a exception, right? Exception arise. So what will
Yeah. Yeah.
happen, rollback will happen, right?
Rollback will happen.
Rollback will happen. And but what already happened, so we are not going to save this thing, right? We will not going to
Yes.
save 900 again. But the
Yeah.
thing is, I have completed one another task in which I have added 100 rupees, right? Then to
Yes.
the
Yes.
then to the total amount will be 1000 only, right? It should be 1100, right?
Mm.
It should have been 1100, right?
Yes. Yes.
So this is the anomaly, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
not the right thing.
Yeah.
So there are multiple issues when we allow isolation level read uncommitted, right? We should not let, I mean, this is a sin if you allow to read data from the buffer area, right? This is a sin because
Yeah.
there are high chances, right? Out of 10,000 or 1,000, I mean, let's say out of 100, at least one will roll back, right? Due to
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
reason. There might be a chance we are shutting down a service, or there might
Yeah.
be a reason that some other thing may happen, right? So
Yeah.
connection timeout, anything can happen. So out of
Yeah.
100 or 1000, at least let's say 1000 or let's say 10,000. Out of
Mm-hmm.
10,000 statements, sorry, uh,
Transactions.
not transactions, this SQL commands, out of 10,000 SQL commands, at least one or two. Okay, yeah,
Mm.
transaction would be better, right?
Yeah.
Out of 10,000 transaction, and at least, I mean, if you are saying transaction, then we can say 100 transaction, right? Out of 100 transaction, at least one will fail, one will
Yes.
roll back, right? It is very highly possible. So
Yeah.
we should not, and we should not read data from the buffer, right? So read uncommitted is the worst thing that we can do with our database. If we try to read from the buffer, the data which we don't know that will be saved or not, we should not use the data, right? If let's say
Yes.
amount, I mean, I'm just giving you some examples so that you will know the severity of this thing. Let's suppose I want to update some amount, right? I want
Mm.
to update the value to be order. I want to update the product value to be 90,000, right?
Yeah.
9 lakh, and there is no phone available in the market of 9 lakhs, right? And
Yes.
and then let's suppose that there was a constraint that was written, and I was updating some value. Before updating that value, the constraint, there was a check constraint which says that we cannot sell anything more than 5 lakh worth, right? So what's ends
Mm.
up happening? The entire transaction will roll back, right?
Yes.
But between this, let's suppose someone comes and try to book that particular product. Then what's in read and committed, what will happen? The phone of 90,000, we will end up selling it for 9 lakhs.
Yeah.
Then we have to revert that amount, right? And the
Yeah.
transaction which is free for us, it costs company a lot of money, right? If
Yes, sir.
you do a transaction for 1,000 rupees, then at least 15 to 5 to 20 rupees will be taken by the payment gateway only for a
Okay.
single transaction, that too. If you buy something
Okay.
from a Swiggy of 1,000 rupees, then the payment gateway will take at least 10 to 20 or 20, maximum 25 rupees. The only payment gateway will take. And if you
Okay.
ask for refund, then for
Mm.
refund again it will take 15 to 25 rupees. So that's how payment gateway works. So if you ever ask a refund, that's why people say, okay, please don't ask refund, eat the food for free, right? So,
Yeah.
so that thing usually happens because they don't want to refund because it will cost them more as well. So
Yeah.
what's so for 9 lakh, if you are taking 9 lakh, then how much money it will be? 1.5 to 2%, right? So
Yes.
10,000, 25,000, right? 1%
Yes.
will be 10,000. So if I'm making a transaction of 10 lakh, then at least 15,000 the company needs to pay to the payment gateway only. and because I have
Yes.
sent the wrong amount, right? I have taken the wrong amount from the user. I have to revert it back. Then again, 10 to 15,000 again I need to spend, right? So how much
Yes.
amount I am making? I am selling something of 90,000. How much money
Yes.
will I make from it? Max 30%, right? And
Yeah.
I'm giving refund of I'm giving the payment gateway almost the half of the amount, right? So it don't
Yeah.
make sense this thing. So it's a loss making item if you do this kind of thing, right? I have given only single example, right? We can wrongly update the user email ID, then the order will be updated to someone else. The order might deliver to some other address. So a lot of
Yes.
mishaps will happen if we'll do this, right? And the amount, right?
Yes.
This amount is very sensitive item to play with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, while we are talking about the amount, the one thing you need to know, I think we have already had discussion regarding this. Which data type will you use for saving the amount into a table?
Use big int or int.
Okay, but do you know about the lossy conversions? If I
No.
try to save 10 point this into Java, it will take this much only, right? Or what it will
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
max, it will do it 10.99, right? So
Mm.
same thing happens with the database as well. You can use double or you can
Double.
use decimal, and you can say, okay, I
Yes.
want the precision to I want precision up to 10 digits, in out of which 2 digits should be based on the decimal part, right? So
Decimal
you
points.
can
Okay.
extend it to 5. Then if this is for example 10 and 2, this is an example of, and 5 1 2 3 5, this is the will be the example of 10.5, right? So
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
happens in the table. So this is a lossy transaction, right? So for if you are
Mm-hmm.
working in a firm where, if you are working for a make my trip, if you are working for a Swiggy, then it's completely cool, right? If you are unable to, if it's cool if you are doing round off, and if their amount is less or more, right? I mean, what I'm
Okay.
saying in less or more is like if it's 10, if the order is of 235.4 or
Mm-hmm.
235 or 236, right? It does not matter. Nor for Swiggy,
Yeah.
nor for user, right? 60 paise no one cares about, right? Or
Yeah.
40 paise. So what ends up doing, if for Swiggy, for Zomato, this thing is for cool, right? If you don't provide, if you charge extra 4 paise, if you charge less 4 paise, right? It's completely cool.
Yeah.
But the company usually use the floor or ceiling. Company use the ceiling for this, right? If I'll
Yeah.
do the ceiling for this, we have already done this, right? Okay, we have already done this. What will happen if I'll do the ceiling? So select seal, and if you put the number, then it will be updated to 37, right?
Okay.
Even
Yes.
the 1 will be updated to 37, right?
Yeah.
So this thing will be done by the company, because it will charge you more, right? Not less.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so what's end up doing, but for Swiggy it's cool, right? Even if they
Yeah.
charge you less, then it's cool, right? Because they have made the arrangement that I want X amount of money. But for the
Yeah.
payments, right? If your account is had earlier 100 rupees, right? And
Mm.
you send someone 95.45,
Okay.
right? Or 5, right? Or 4 4, then the total amount in your account should be 0.56, right?
Yes.
If someone's try to make it zero point 0.0, then you will say what the heck, right? You will say
Mm.
this is not allowed. Even RBI don't allow it, right? Not RBI,
Yeah.
no one in the entire banking industry will allow it all around the world, right? So
Yes.
what will you do if this is the thing? You are not working for a normal online firm. You are working for a payment gateway, right? Now you
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
the exact values until the nth number of the decimal, right? So
Yes.
all right, so I'm going to answer. You will save it in a string, right? In when
Yeah.
we save the string, there is no lossy conversions, right? So you will
Mm-hmm.
use the big decimal, not big integer in Java. So you are going to use big decimal, and in the database you are going to use string. Cool. Because with the
String.
string there is
Okay.
no lossy conversion. If you try to save this, it will be saved as this only, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So okay, cool. Okay, we have spent some extra time over here, but this is very commonly asked question, right? Of low level design.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. So back to the back to the task. So read uncommitted. We have seen if we read uncommitted data, if we start to read from the buffer, then there will be inconsistency, right, in our database. If I'm
Yes.
trying to delete a user, right, and
Yeah.
before, if I've deleted a user in the transaction, or if I created a
Mm.
user in a transaction, right, and
Yeah.
let's if I try to create a user under a transaction without the commit, right, I haven't done
Mm.
rollback, or nor I have done committal, right, and but at
Yeah.
that particular time, if in another transaction I read that particular user and try to make an order, right, and commit it as well, and if I roll back
Mm.
the creation of the user, right, then what ends up doing, I will create a order for a user which does not exist in my system, right, so I don't know
Yes.
to whom I have already solved that product. So now our system is
Mm.
inconsistent, right, we have these things, we have constraint for that, right, to make sure that
Yeah.
our system is in consistent state. But let's say we don't have that particular constraint, then the system won't be in this state, right. So
Yeah.
that's why read and committed is the worst thing that you can do, right. This thing is
Mm.
never used, right. This thing is never
Mm.
used, and this now exists just as a, I mean, this is so bad it does not even exist nowadays, right. This thing we just read
Yes.
it
Yes.
just to make sure we know how to, if we try to create our own database management system some days, whether it's RDMS or something else, then we should know that okay, these are the things that we need to tackle, right. So
Mm.
now the thing is read uncommitted, right, and the other thing is
Yes.
read committed. Read committed is the thing that we have seen, right, because
Mm.
until I commit the data, right, in another
Yeah.
transaction we
Yeah.
were not seeing that particular update, right.
Yes. Yes.
So what we have seen in our example was read committed, right. So the
Yes.
next is read repeatable. What does it mean by
Mm.
read repeatable? Read repeatable says that okay. Before going to it, let me tell you the issues that it happens, right. When I
Okay.
read some data which does not exist, right. This thing that I have mentioned, right. If you
Mm.
need to explain it to someone, right, you are not going to
Yeah.
say this much, right, that okay, there would be an amount, and then let's suppose a transaction, it tries to update an amount, and transaction B wants to update that amount as well, but it reads from the this buffer memory, right, and it reads the uncommitted data and performs operation on uncommitted data, and the first transaction gets rolled back. Then what will happen, eventually our system will be in inconsistent state because it read the data that does not exist, right. It reads the user
Yes.
that does not exist, or it update the amount that is not committed, right. Then
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
thing is called dirty read, right. That's the terminology for this,
That,
dirty read. And I'm not
that.
making it up, everyone use the same terminology, right, outside the industry.
Yes.
So it will be a point blank question, what is dirty read, right. So what is will be dirty read, if we read the uncommitted data from a transaction T1 and T2 will
Mm.
read uncommitted data of transaction T1, then it will be a dirty read. Why dirty read?
Yes. Sir.
Because that data might not exist later, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So what does it mean by dirty read? A dirty read occurs when one transaction, right, T1 let's say, reads the data
Yeah.
which has been modified by another transaction. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So T2, let's say the T2 is reading something that has been modified by T1, right? But T1 has
T1.
not
Yes.
committed it yet, right?
Yes.
So what does it mean? I'm reading uncommitted data,
That.
or another thing
Yeah.
that we can say that we are reading directly from the buffer, right? Or
Yes. Yes.
non-persistent data we are reading. So it is, there is a
Yeah.
terminology that we used, dirty read, right. This is
Uh,
a issue, right, dirty read.
that great. Yes.
So there is issue with each one of them, right. Serializable is
Yeah. Yeah.
free of any issues, right, but the thing with the serializable is that it will take lock. It
Mm.
will take, even sometimes it, and the locks it takes can goes up to the database level lock. And if
Okay.
something, if a single query can take database level locks, then it means that no other query will be executed unless that particular query unlocks or gives away the locks, right.
Okay.
So it is extremely safe, but it makes our system extremely high latency, right.
Mm-hmm.
And we want low latency, right. We want our system to be I mean our API to be as fast as possible, right. But if we use
Yes.
this,
Yes.
then our system will be slow, very 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 slow, right. This should
Okay.
not be used until we know exactly why we are doing this, right. Also this
Yes.
should not be used without the proper uh, okay, wait, the QA team uses it, okay, load testing, right. This thing should
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
be
Okay.
used without the load testing, right. So
Mm-hmm.
this thing is I mean this thing you can not even use, right, because some Postgres don't even allow you to work
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
read uncommitted level, right. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
not even exist in Postgres, right. In
Mm.
MySQL it exists, but in Postgres it does not even exist. Cool. This
Okay.
thing is the best thing, right, that you can do. This
Yeah,
also
yeah.
takes lot of time, and this
Mm.
takes logs every time, right? So
Mm.
this is how read uncommitted can make your system most fast, right? But this
Mm.
thing is the best because it has the dirty reads, right? But it has more issue as well. What are the more
Mm.
issues, right? One other issue that can happen with this is, for example, let's say uh, there is a user, right? Okay, we already had the example, right? uh,
Yeah, yeah.
where uh, where I have I was trying to update a user, right? Or insert a
Yes.
user, right?
Yeah.
And then the transaction becomes rolled back, right? So what
Yes.
ends up happening is I read a user or I used a user that does not exist, right?
Yes.
So it's a phantom, right? Phantom means ghost, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
phantom, right? Phantom mean, yeah, phantom meaning. So phantom means the spirit of a dead person that existing or hardly, or somebody who is still living. Okay, something that you think that exists, right? But that is not real,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Same thing with that particular user that we think that it is in our system, right? But we never committed it, so that user does not even exist. We thought that it is there, but that user does
Yeah.
not exist, right? So that thing, what will happen then? It's called phantom read,
And
right? I'm reading something that does not exist, right?
yeah.
Or another thing, I'm not reading something that exists, because
Yeah.
this was the insert query, right?
Yeah.
Insert query, uncommitted insert query that I read, right? And I thought
Yes.
there is some user that exists. Let's suppose I am trying to get a user ID 15, and let's suppose
Yeah.
I have executed a delete query inside a transaction, right? Before
Yeah.
rollback or commit, then it will not read a user that exists, right? Because it will think that from the buffer, agent will think that the 15 user has been deleted
Yeah.
because transaction T1 used the delete command, right, for that particular user. That will comes
Yeah.
into the phantom read. Cool. So
Yeah.
this is the second issue, that is with the read uncommitted. And the
Yeah.
next thing with this is non-repeatable read. What is non-repeatable read? It is related to the phantom read point. Non-repeatable read. What does it mean? It means is repeatable. Re- Repeatable. Okay. The second thing is non-repeatable read. What does it mean? It means, let's say if I have run some query, let's say I want to see a single woman in my area in Tinder. I'm talking about a Tinder website. Let's suppose I
Yeah.
want to see a woman in my area whose age is greater than 28 to 32. Cool. And I want
Okay.
them into the 5 miles of radius from mine. Then let's say
Okay.
there are 10 rows that I get, right? I mean, let's not talk about it, I'll get the 10 results, right? And
Okay.
okay, we are talking about a database one, right? Okay, let's suppose we get the 10 rows for that particular query. Now later
Mm.
on, because I'm reading dirty, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
there was a update command, and two of those 10 women updated their age and made it, one made it 26, another made it 38 from
Mm.
28. Cool. So next time what
Okay.
will happen, if I'll read again, then I will get different data, right?
Yes.
If I'll read first time and within the same transaction, if I try to read the data again, then I will get the different data, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
this thing is not good. So this issue is called non-repeatable read. And why is not good? Because there might be a chance I am using a select query to get a list of user IDs, right? For which I
Yes.
have to make sure that these users don't exist anymore, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
let's say I have to delete some users. So I get a list of 10 users to delete, right? So what,
Yeah.
and I will perform 2 3 operations. First, what I will do based on those certain criteria. What I will get a list of the users. Then what I'll do, I'll make all their active orders, right? I will cancel all
Yeah.
their active orders, right? This will be the first query that I will run, right? To cancel all their
Yeah.
active orders. And the next thing what I'll need to do is I need to update the the column status, right? I need to update the
Yes.
column status to deactivated, right? Because we have
Yeah.
already covered that we never delete the data, right, in our system until asked, right? So we will just
Yeah.
mark it the user as deleted. So when, and let's suppose I'm taking the users from the age range, right? Let's suppose
Mm.
there was some issue and some user wanted I mean, some users, we allowed some users under the age of 10 in the Tinder, right? So now we have to
Yeah.
delete those users, right? Because that was a bug. So let's
Yeah.
say they were trying to they purchase those items, right? They purchase the premium membership. So we need to initiate the refund. For first thing, I have initiated the refund. Then I again read the same query, right? That okay, get the users
Yes.
with less than 18 years of age. And now two
Yeah.
people has updated their age to 28, right? So I have provided
Yeah.
refund to 10 people, right? Now when
Yeah.
I am going to deactivate the users, then there will be two less users, right? So that these
Yes.
two users will get the refund and they will be able to use the system as well, right? Does not make sense, right? Again, inconsistent database, right? And ACID property
Yeah.
says that database needs to be consistent, right?
Yes.
So this is the issue. These are the three issues that happens with the unread uncommitted, right? But
Yes.
out of this, you can directly say dirty read will not happen, right? With the read committed,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
with read dirty read will happen because we are reading from the buffer or we are reading the uncommitted
Yeah.
data. With read committed, this will not happen, right? But read
Yes.
repeatable and phantom read still happen, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the thing is, I'm reading the committed data, right?
Yes.
Right now, but when non-repetitive read, what it says when I read the data first, right? Let's say I have read some data and there were 10 users with less than 18 for agent tender. This I have
Yeah.
run in the transaction to T2, right? And in T1,
Mm.
two users updated their age, right? So the
Yeah.
first time I have run, the T2 was there, right? T2 was there. Let's suppose T2 was there first, and T2 get the 10 user first, and then
Mm-hmm.
two user come and they complete the transaction, right? They updated their age. Then I am
Yeah.
inside the transaction only. Still I'm in this transaction. This T1 has completed the transaction of updating the age of two users, right? But
Mm.
T2 is not complete yet. T2 again reads the number of users, then it will again get, right? What it's doing,
Mm.
it's reading the same data again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's reading the committed data, but the data has been changed, right? So
Yes.
this
Yes.
thing is not helping. Read committed is not helping us with the non-repeatable read, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
phantom read as well. Let's suppose I am reading the data. I have read four users, right? I have read four
Yeah.
users for which I need to delete, right, data, or I need to cancel their orders. So same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's suppose I have deleted one user, right? So first
Mm-hmm.
time I have read some user. I have read some user that used to exist, right? Let's suppose this is T1. T1 read a
Yeah.
user U1, right? And T2
Yeah.
transaction starts and it deletes the data, deletes the user U1, right? But
Mm.
it will still think, right? It has read something that does not exist, right? If some other command executes in the table, in the transaction T2, T1, sorry, then it will think, right, that U1 does not exist. I have read something that is not there, right? Phantom read will still be there, right?
Yeah.
Are you able to understand these concepts?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, if you have any doubts, then you can let me know. So in read repeatable, what it does to make sure that this does not happen, it takes a snapshot whenever it will
Mm-hmm.
read the 10 users, right? It
Mm.
will, for every get query, it will create a snapshot. And what does it mean by snapshot? The answer of that particular query, it will store in the
Mm.
RAM, right?
Okay.
So it's not going to
Okay.
read from the permanent storage. Read committed, what it says that okay, please read things from the permanent storage only, right? This is what it means, right?
Okay.
Read committed, because committed data is
Mm-hmm.
stored in the permanent storage. But non-repetitive read says whenever you are reading something, so
Mm.
create a snapshot and create the result of that particular query inside the buffer. And whenever
Mm-hmm.
you are again trying to read the data, again read from the buffer only, right? So
Okay.
when there are 10 users, it gets the data. Okay, there are 10 users with age less than 18, right? So what
Yeah.
will happen? It will save that data, and we call it a snapshot. So it will save
Mm.
that user's data or the query's data into the buffer, right? And
Yeah.
let's say that T2 transaction comes and it's reduce the age of increase the age of two users and make it 28 and 29, right? But
Yeah.
then too again, if it takes the T1 transaction again, if you try to get the data of users, then it's not going to go to the permanent storage for this particular query. It will go to the
It
buffer,
will
right?
read from buffer only. Yes.
Yes, and when it will read from the buffer, what will eventually happen? It will read the same data again, right?
Same data
So
again.
that's why it's called read repeatable. Whatever you have read, if you try to read again, it will give you the same data, right? So the read
Mm-hmm.
repeatable is not a issue for this, right? But the phantom read
Mm.
is,
Yeah.
because again I can delete the data, right?
Yes.
Still I will be able to delete or insert the rows, right? But in serialization it takes locks, right? So if you try
Yes.
to read in serialization also, two things happens, right? There are two
Yes.
phase locks, there are different level of locks, right? So two phase locks it uses, and along with it what it do, it makes sure that whatever it's reading, most of the time it takes a snapshot if required. Other
Mm-hmm.
time it takes a log of that particular column or that particular row or that particular table or that particular database, right, if required.
Okay.
Okay, so this is what happens with the serialization. So serialization it will take the lock, right, on the particular date table. So you
Yeah.
are not going to your query will needs to hold, right? You won't be able
Yeah.
to update that thing. So
Yes.
that's what happens over here. Cool. So okay, okay, and for this locking things, let me think if I can mimic this. How can I mimic this? Because the thing is that right now most of the tasks it do by taking the lock instead of using this. So if my isolation
Uh,
level will be at committed, okay, okay, let me think of an example. So there will be no issues with this, right? There will be no issue
yeah.
with the serializable, but it will take lock, so it will make our system way too slow. Cool. So
Yeah.
never use this if you don't know the internals, right? Never use this. I
Yeah.
mean, no one will allow you to do this, right? I mean, even
Yeah.
Postgres, if you try to do, you won't be able to do it. Cool. Now we will going to do the practicals, right?
And
Okay, so it's going
Abhishek,
to
one
take.
question
Yeah.
regarding here. That repeatable read is what we have seen in the second terminal, right? It is reading the data from the permanent storage.
Come again.
We
Come
have
again.
discussed it. The repeatable read is there, right?
Repeatable read. Yes, it's an isolation level.
Yeah.
Go. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Ask the
Yeah. We
question.
have seen we have seen the example before, no? You have
Yeah.
opened the two terminals, and in the buffer zone, like when the transaction is begin, we try to update the price of particular ID, and we have checked whether it is updated or not. It is not yet updated. That data it retrieved is from permanent storage. That is what we have seen, that repeatable rate.
Okay. 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 No. 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 Okay. It thing. I mean, yeah. I mean, you try to I mean join those two things. But the thing is, right now is our database set to a particular thing. See, whenever I make a update in a transaction, right?
Yeah.
I have made that particular transaction, right, in a table. I have used the update queries, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I make the update queries, okay, let me write it. Write something else. Okay, cool. I was trying to do something else, but nice, right? This is how you should ask questions. Cool. So let's check, right, what we have in our systems, right? Orders. Cool.
Yeah.
So how many orders are there right now? 7, right?
Total
Eight.
eight
Eight are
eight
total,
dollars.
right?
Yeah.
So great. We have 8 orders. Let's insert one more. Cool.
Mm.
Insert into public orders values, then 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8
Nine
9
nine. Product
and
ID
product id. let's
5.
let's Okay,
2.
let's take one only. User
Mm.
id one only. We will delete it eventually, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it will not be saved. Price of take
No.
100, right? It doesn't matter. Okay, so now
Yeah.
we have 9 rows, right? So now what we
Yes.
want to do, we want to, okay, okay, let's do the
Begin.
select count, right, asterisk
Yes.
from public
Public dot orders.
orders. Cool. So this is count
Mm.
is 9, right? So now
Yeah.
begin the transaction. Cool. Now what
Mm.
I'm doing, I'm counting this thing, right? It is 9, right?
Yeah.
Now what I'll do, instead of begin, I'll just directly update this thing, right? Let's say begin. Let's see the transaction and update. Oh, sorry. Delete from public users or my bad orders
Yeah.
where id equals to 9, right? Deleted one.
Yeah.
Let's do the
Yeah.
commit. Transaction committed. If I try
Mm-hmm.
to read it now, what's the data? 8, right?
8 years.
Inside the transaction, I have run two queries, and both of the time the answer is different. Is it read repeatable?
Yeah.
Come again.
Yeah. Read repeatable.
Hello.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not read repeatable, right?
yeah, yeah.
Because if it was a read repeatable, then I have used inside the same transaction two times same query, right?
Mm.
So
Yeah, yeah.
it would have been 9, but it's not.
No,
So that
yes,
means
yes.
it's not read repeatable, right?
Read repeatable.
Okay. So now the thing is, because why? I mean, your your observation was good, but the thing is, we have updated that particular data, right? In a normal transaction, also, if you update the data, right? Any
Mm.
data if you update, you will see that particular updated data only in within a transaction, right? Because transaction
Okay.
has their own method, own space, right? Like a thread has its own space, right?
Yeah,
Like a
yeah.
thread has its own space, a transaction also has the same space. So if we have updated some data inside a transaction and we try to fetch that data, then the data from a transaction will be received and it will be visible, right? So
Yes, yes.
it will be visible. It was visible, not because it was reading from the buffer. I mean, it was reading from buffer, but the thing is, the data that particular transaction updated, right? But in
Yes, yes.
read repeatable, it's not the case. Some other transaction will update the data, and you will not get the same data again if you use the same query after some time within the same transaction. This
Okay.
is the difference, right?
Okay.
In both of the both the examples, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we have seen this thing. Let's okay. Let's not get. We will not discuss the logs that it usually use when the serializable. So read repeatable also take logs, right? It's not like it's every time it's going to use the snapshots, right? It can take logs as well. But the thing is, the logs that we use in it, it's usually, I mean, you it's in Java also there are logs, right? Shared logs, exclusive logs, right? Then in intention logs and range logs, there are different types of log that we use. But we are not going to go inside the logs part, right now. But what we are going to see, what we are going to see the basic isolation levels, we will see, right? The first thing that
Yeah.
need to know, and why I was so confident that this is I mean, we did not see the read repeatable example, was the default part, right? I want to
Yeah.
check the isolation level, right? So
Yeah.
isolation level is a part of transaction, right? So I will do a
Transaction.
transaction, right? Inside the transaction there will be an isolation level, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I will say show transaction isolation level, and over
Okay.
there you will get a rate committed is there, right?
Yes.
You will get it. Then what
Yeah.
I can do, I can say set transaction, right? Same item, set
Mm.
transaction isolation level, right? And
Mm.
let's say read uncommitted, COMM. I don't know if the spelling is wrong, then set isolation transaction level must be called before any query. Okay. See, we are already inside the transaction, right? So let me
Yeah,
roll
yeah.
back first. Okay, so let me roll back first, right? Then okay, okay, I have set the transaction to. Okay, let me show transaction
Le-
isolation level, right?
Level.
Read committed.
Yeah.
Okay. The one thing that you need to know. Okay, let me Google it as well. Read uncommitted, not working in Postgres, right? The thing is, Postgres don't allow. Postgres does not even support read uncommitted isolation level, right?
Okay.
If you even try to set read uncommitted, it will treat it be as read committed only. Cool.
Okay.
Because read uncommitted is considered a sensible way. Uncommitted is not a
Okay.
sensible way, right? Does not make sense, right? So this Postgres does not even allow it, right? So
Okay.
that is a very first thing. And the isolation level that we have set is for what? Is usually for a transaction. So if I'll try to do the begin, right? And if I'll try to
Yes.
do the okay, let's if I'll do the begin, and if I'll try to run the same thing, let's transaction isolation level, right? Read committed is there only, right?
Yes.
Even though
Yes.
I have tried to set it to uncommitted, right?
Yeah.
And inside the transaction, now if I check, now it's read uncommitted, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it visible?
Yeah. Yeah. Visible. Visible.
Cool. So what I have done, I have set the transition to read uncommitted, but we have already read it. Even though it has set to read uncommitted, it will still work as read committed, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so you cannot by default. I haven't changed anything, right? When I open the database, I haven't set any isolation level, right? So the default
Yes.
database level is read committed for Postgres, right? That we have seen.
Yes.
So same
Yeah.
thing is that we can set to read repeatable, right? So
Read that.
repeatable. Okay, there might be a chance that set transition as well. Read repeatable. Spelling is wrong. First of all, I know what I need to do. I need to do the rollback, right? So there might be a chance my spelling of repeatable is wrong.
I
repeatable.
think two semicolons you have given.
Okay. Okay. Oh, my bad. No. Not about it. Not about the semicolon. The reason it wasn't working was because it is said we call it read repeatable, but in database it's repeatable read, right? It's said.
Yes.
Cool. So show transaction isolation level. My bad. Now I need to. Okay. See, one thing is that if a transaction breaks, right? The transaction is break. How will you know it? That over here it will be a exclamatory sign, right? You cannot commit it, right? But
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
still try to execute the things, right? It won't let me. Cool. Okay, then I need to roll back. There is no other option. Oh, let's see if I try to commit, what will happen, right? If I try to commit as well, then it will roll back, right?
Yeah.
I try to commit, but it will roll back because exception already happened, right? Error happened. So what I'll do now, if I try to start the transaction again, and so transaction isolation level read uncommitted, so I will set it to read repeatable. Then
Mm.
I will set check read repeatable, right? Then
Yes.
I will set it to serializable.
Sure.
Serializable. Now I don't remember the spelling. Serializable. Z-A-B-L-E. Let's try. Oh, it's correct. Cool. So let's say show transaction action serializable. Cool.
Yeah.
So it's not like I have written it some random stuff over here. These are the these are the things that we write, right, in daily life.
Yeah.
And again, in the Hibernate also we'll use the same thing. But what we are going to do, we are going to use the iterate transaction, right? So
Yeah.
whenever we are doing begin, right, Hibernate will do it on its own. As soon as method starts, it will do the begin, right? It will add the begin. If the method executes successfully, it will do the commit. If the method gives a error or exception, then it will do the rollback, right? And the isolation
Yes.
level also we are going to use with the annotation of strings or Hibernate only, right? Then there will be
Yes.
isolation level dot serializable that we can set. Isolation level dot read repeatable. Isolation level dot read committed, right? And this thing we don't need
Yes.
to do because it's a default isolation level in a database, right?
Yeah.
We will only see these two being set, right? And this thing we'll never set, right? It's a crime to set it, right? You will be
Yes.
I mean, you should not be a developer if you are trying to set this or this without even knowing that what is this, right? All
Yeah.
right. So now we have covered this thing. All right. So isolation levels we have seen the isolation level. What else we can do? Okay. So okay. So now okay. Wait. Now let's set to okay isolation level, not read repeatable level, right? Read repeatable, right? Now
Yes.
this thing is read repeatable, right?
Yeah.
Now if I try to do select star from public orders, right? 8 rows there, right?
Yeah.
And now if I'll insert, okay, my bad. So let's do the orders, cool, and insert into array. It will be a part of okay. My bad. Let's do this thing. Select count asterisk from public dot orders, right? And over here let's do insert into public orders values 9 we have already deleted, right? 9 1
Yeah.
1 and then now and then 100, right? So
Yeah.
we have inserted one more row, right?
Yeah.
So if we try again, there is no 9, right? The same data we are getting.
Yeah.
You get it?
Yeah.
So this is an example of read and commit, right?
Yeah.
Because our isolation level is so show a transaction isolation level. What is this? Read repeatable. That's why the query, the answer that we already have, it will be stored in the snapshot of the results will be stored in the buffer memory, and it will be read from the buffer memory only, right? If I'll try to
Mm.
do this and try to do it over here, then I will get 9, right? And
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is persisted because I haven't used any transaction for this, right? I directly hit it because so it is persisted data, it's reading committed data only.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
So this is the read committed. Cool, understandable.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
alright, let's end our session. This is the most important session, right?